The Browns season has finally come to an end. And now it's kind of the fun stuff, right? We got rid of the offensive coordinator, got rid of the O-line coach, second overall pick. There's a lot to dive into, and also some future bets in Sick Picks. Let's get to the show.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara, the sickest Cleveland Browns podcast.
Chubb runs, he's to the 10, 15, he's to the 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. There goes Chubb, he's to the 30, 20, 10, 5, touchdown, Shabba Lubba Hub.
It's gonna be sick.
All right, everybody, welcome. Brown season done. Everybody else gets ready for the playoffs, right? And, well, not us. God forbid we get to the postseason 2 years in a row. Well, one of the worst Brown seasons since 1999 for sure. More disappointing, probably more unexpected disappointment than any other season since 99. 2008 could ring in there too, but it wasn't this bad. After that great 2007, you had Derek Anderson, Edwards, Winslow, right, coming in. And then 2008, all the Brady Quinn crap happened. But the 1-31 2 seasons, we all knew they stunk. We knew the result would be bad. And that was the beginning of the Paul DePodesta era. Fast forward from 2016 to now, and we're back at a 3-win season. Absolutely disgusting. But now, what we have to look forward to is the second overall pick. It's a chance we get back the hope. Remember a few weeks ago, I did a video saying the Browns have stolen the hope away. We got a little bit of hope. Now, do I think Andrew Berry can be the guy to get this draft right? Well, we'll get into that in just a few minutes. Make sure you click notifications on, the like button, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below. We got a poll question up. We'll bring that up in just a moment. But I want to know what you think the Browns should do with that second overall pick, as well as we'll get into some sick picks later on, because there's some value with some of the NFL awards coming up. Follow us on X, Twitter, at SickPodBrowns, at AndyMC81, Instagram, at AndyMCSports. You might notice I'm a little raspy. The Brown season literally has made me sick. I'm battling a flu right now. I'm burning up, but damn it, we're going to do the show because I'm pretty pumped about what the possibilities are here. And I'm going to bring in an old friend of mine from Cleveland, 92.3 The Fan. It is Danny Cunningham. Danny, welcome, sir. How are you?
I'm well, man. Thanks for having me. How you been?
Doing well. Outside of the flu, we're doing good.
Yeah,
and,
it's going around, you know.
We're getting there. But like I said, the Brown season has literally made me sick. It was
they'll
terrible.
do that.
Just your feeling on this year with the expectation. I said off the top there, we knew they'd be bad in 2016-17. We were expecting something, maybe not a Super Bowl, but at least much better than this.
Right. So I struggle with this because I think it's the most disappointing season of my lifetime. And, I'm in my 30s now, so I've seen a lot of bad seasons. I can't call it the worst season I've ever seen because that will always be the 0-16 year. Like, you think back, that team literally did not win a regular season game. Terrible. I hate to say this, at least this team won 3 of them. At least this team found a way to beat both Baltimore and Pittsburgh this year. But as far as what expectations were compared to what actually happened, I don't think there's been a more disappointing season because, in that 1-31 stretch, we didn't expect the Browns to be good. You looked at it before the season, like, you know what, they could win 4 games and we'd be excited about that. And then when they go 1-15, it's like, man, that was a bummer. That was brutal. But you didn't expect them to be in the playoffs. This was a team that won 11 games last year, that had a lot of pieces returning, that when Nick Chubb came back from his knee injury, they were supposed to be able to hit a new level. And the train never got on the tracks. I mean, I can't even say that it didn't get going, never even got onto the tracks. It was so bad. And it started at the start of the season, and there were just really never any sunny days with this team the entire season. I can't think of a more disappointing year in my life.
Yeah, there were so few happy moments. Like the snow game beating Pittsburgh with Jameis Winston, I guess, would be the highlight. I felt joy in that with all the atmosphere. That was really the one upside, but everything else had the dark cloud still of Deshaun Watson just hovering, murky all over. And it continues. And we'll get into a bunch of what Andrew Berry said and didn't say coming in. But the most interesting thing he did say was Deshaun Watson had an injury setback to that Achilles. And what that could mean, coming from Spot Track, our Tony Grossi popped this out there, said that the injury, really what it does is this salary cap stuff, it kind of, if he doesn't play this year, it kind of gives the Browns that out. That post June 1st release as of March 2026 would be a dead cap hit of $46 million in 2026, 89.5, Danny, in 2027. Come on. Now, the cap's going to go
I mean, yes, the cap is going to go up, and that's why the Browns keep kicking the can down the road with this, because like from a financial aspect, from a cap management aspect, like, does it make sense? Sure. But it feels as if this dark cloud of the guy who I think has been, one, the most unlikable quarterback the Browns have had since 1999, and two, I'm not going to say he's the worst quarterback, because we've seen some awful quarterback play.
That's a show on its own.
It is, but he's in that conversation. Like, I'm not going to call him the worst quarterback, because we have seen him do a couple of good things, but I can't say that he's not in that conversation either. And it just keeps this cloud of all of that stuff lingering over this franchise a little bit longer. There's not a good way out of this. It is probably the worst contract ever signed in professional sports, especially when you consider that there is a salary cap that you do have to abide by, whether or not you think it's a myth or if it's a real thing. There are rules here. Mm-hmm. This isn't baseball where you can just, we'll spend our way out of it.
Right.
So it prolongs the misery, I think, is basically what continues to happen with Deshaun Watson. That said, after hearing, and even before hearing Andrew Berry speak the other day, I was of the opinion Deshaun Watson is never going to play another snap for the Browns again. And I'd be very surprised if he plays another snap in the NFL again. Wow. And after hearing Andrew Berry say that, like, I just kind of feel like I'm doubling down on those beliefs.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was actually at the game, Danny, the Cincinnati game, where he went down, had that injury.
Oh, wow.
Which was wild. And I'm totally with you. It is, he is the most unlikable. And whether that's fully his fault or not, like, you can't blame him for taking the money. That's not his fault.
No, right? You can't blame him for that. I mean, you can blame him for a lot of the other stuff, but you can't blame if someone offered me that contract, I'd say yes too, right? Like, I can't fault him for that aspect of it. Yeah. That's not on him. Blame the Browns for that. You can blame Deshaun for a lot. You can't blame him for the contract he got, though.
And what the Browns, of course, gave up. Now we're finally getting a first-round pick back. And some other interesting notes from the Andrew Berry press conference, of course, was a bit non-committal on Nick Chubb, where in the past it was always like, yep, Nick's coming back. And now it's like, what do you make of that? Like, he said he'll be in the Ring of Honor, all-time Brown, yada, yada. I would like to see, now it's a broken foot on the same injured knee, like he's 29 years old, but I would love to see him on the same deal he had this year. $2 million guaranteed, tons of incentives. If it doesn't work, then he can hang him up if he chooses to.
Right. I do think that with Nick, that door's never going to be closed. I would expect that he is back with the Browns. I just think that what's his market going to be elsewhere? Like, what team out there is going to sign up to pay him big money? And you can look at, okay, well, Derrick Henry's about the same age, and Derrick Henry just got a pretty decent deal and had a great year with Baltimore, but Derrick Henry doesn't have that injury history that Nick has, because it's not only the broken foot, it's not only the gruesome knee injury that he suffered last year against Pittsburgh in what was that, week 3 early in the season. Yeah. It's the fact that he had another one of those in college, and that stuff, while maybe it didn't necessarily affect him through the prime of his career, that is the type of thing that's going to catch up to you at some point. You're going to age a little bit quicker than you would otherwise, especially when you're playing a position in the NFL that takes as much punishment as playing running back does. I do think he will be back. I don't know how effective he will ever be. I also think, like, it's something that this is an organization that, let's be real, man, they need some PR wins. They need to find some grace with this fan base. And I think finding a way to bring Nick Chubb back would accomplish that. And that doesn't necessarily win or lose games. You don't win or lose games in March, but I think that'd be a good thing for this, just organizationally. It'd be a good look to do that.
I totally agree. And the thing is, you don't have to bring him back with the expectation of him being a bell cow back. Safe to say those days are done. You draft a guy, right? You bring somebody else. You move away from the Donta Foremans. You move away from the Pierre Strongs. You draft we see him every year, Danny. You can get a 4th, 5th round running back who can come in if the Browns do go back, hopefully, fingers crossed, that wide zone run scheme that works so well, the Stefanski offense, you bring him in, you have a nice little trio of Chubb, maybe short yardage, Jerome Ford, and rookie X. And I think that's good. And you still have Nick Chubb pop in there, fans cheer, and he gets to go out, hopefully injury-free, gracefully after another 1 year.
Yeah, I think that's kind of all you can ask. Or maybe he finds something next year and he, finds some magic that he can be somebody that might not be again. He's never going to be a bell cow type back again. And that type of running back in the NFL, you have to be special, I think, to command that sort of role. And Nick in his prime, no doubt was, but there's no reason why he can't prove everybody wrong, prove me wrong, and go out and be somebody that at least looks like, hey, that guy could run for 1,000 yards again. I don't expect that. I think it's an unfair thing to expect of Nick Chubb, considering what he's gone through, but he's proved people wrong before with what he's been able to fight back in terms of his injuries throughout his football playing days. So maybe that does happen this year. I don't know.
And we know if anyone's going to put the work in, it's Nick Chubb. He's not eating pasta with taking pictures with a cheap bottle of wine by a beach like some people.
Right. Yes. Yeah. I think that he's going to do everything it takes.
He's going to do all it takes. In conversation with Danny Cunningham from 92.3 The Fan. Danny, I want to bring up this poll here. Producer Shane, if you don't mind. We put it out there. Browns, of course. Hey, one benefit of being a crappy team is you get the excitement of the draft. So, second overall pick, my friend. What do you want Cleveland to do with the second overall NFL draft pick? And the funny thing is, the last time they had this pick, they traded down not once, but twice and passed up on Patrick Mahomes and the original good Deshaun Watson. So what would you like them to do? Take a QB, pick the best non-QB, or trade down?
So I'm not crazy, and I'm curious to see how you feel about this. I'm not crazy of either of the two guys that we look at and say they should be first-round draft picks at quarterback. Like, I think Shedeur Sanders will be a fine quarterback in the NFL. I don't necessarily think he's going to be somebody that you look at as a franchise-type quarterback. Now, do the Browns need that? I don't know. I watched Cam Ward. I think Cam Ward is a fine quarterback, but I think he turns the ball over a little bit too much for my liking. And I think those are the sorts of things that you look at. It's very rare, and everyone can point at Josh Allen, but it's very rare that that's the type of thing that gets better when you start playing against NFL defenses. Like, that's typically accuracy, turnover rate, those go up. Or, that becomes a more difficult thing to manage when you get to professional football than it was in college. Like, you don't just magically get better at that. Maybe Cam Ward will. I don't know. I'm in favor of trading down because I think that this is a team that has a lot of holes that need to be filled. And if there is a quarterback needy team that wants to come up at 2 and they want Shedeur or they want Cam Ward, whichever one doesn't go 1, if one of them does go 1, give them that opportunity. Because what I do think that this team should be focusing on is, 1, you have to sell to Myles Garrett that this is not going to be a rebuild. And drafting a rookie quarterback this year doesn't exactly scream that to him. And I would expect that this team is going to be one that is involved in free agency, maybe looking at signing somebody like Kirk Cousins, a la what the Pittsburgh Steelers did with Russell Wilson this year, signing a guy who gets cut and is getting paid a lot of money from another team to a much more cap friendly deal. Maybe that happens. Yeah. Right. Yes, exactly. And then if things don't necessarily go your way, the Browns could have a decent draft pick again next year in terms of like high up in the order and have additional assets to, maybe Arch Manning has a great year at Texas and he's the sexy name to throw out because of who he's related to. But maybe he's going to be a top pick and you have additional assets to where you can trade up and go get that sort of draft pick and then really start to go for it after that if it doesn't work with the reclamation project this upcoming season.
Right. And we got so far the poll is take a QB 43.5%, pick best non-QB 26.1%, trade down 30.4%. So your trade down is 30.4%. It really depends to me what they do at this free agent position, which I also at quarterback, which I also think Danny will tip us as to what offense they'll look to run. And also, of course, who the offensive coordinator is. Will we know ahead of time if Kevin Stefanski will call plays again? I think he should, based after what we saw. So if he does get, let's say, a Kirk Cousins, that makes a ton of sense. Now, you got to do the medical. Kirk Cousins didn't look good, wasn't running a lot of play action. Was that injury related coming back? I don't know. But if you get him or somebody else that can run that system enough to give you time to develop a QB, I'm fine with the trade down. What do you make? The best overall ranked player in the draft is Travis Hunter.
Right.
They say sometimes, if you have two quarterbacks, you don't have one. If you have two positions, you don't have one. Like, he's not going to be playing two all the time. Like, that's more my concern.
That worries me.
Right? Like, are you getting a guy who's good at two or not? Like, I don't know.
That's what worries me. Like, Travis Hunter is a phenomenal college football player. If I had a vote for the Heisman Trophy, I would have given it to Travis Hunter.
Yeah.
Don't think it necessarily would have been close in my mind. For as great of a season as Ashton Jeanty had with Boise State, I thought Travis Hunter absolutely embodied what that award is about. But when you get to the NFL, you really can't play both ways. It's one thing to do it in college, and I understand that college games actually tend to have more snaps than NFL games do. So I totally get that from a conditioning aspect. Like, is that possible? Sure. But can you do it in the NFL? Can you have all the intricacies of what you need to do in an NFL offense and in NFL defense playing a very, very important position? Like, I think corner is probably the fourth most valuable position on a football field. Can you do that and play wide receiver? I don't know. And then you look at it and say, okay, well, which one is he better at? I think he's really good at both. I don't know that he's elite at both. I think the elite part of Travis Hunter is the versatility he has. I don't know that that's as valuable in the NFL as it is in college football. Like, is he the best wide receiver in this draft? I don't think so. I think that the kid from Arizona is probably a little bit better. I think you could go a couple of different directions there. Is he the best corner in this draft? I don't think so. I think Will Johnson from Michigan probably is. I think Benjamin Morrison from Notre Dame probably is a better corner. Now, he has a hip injury. We don't know what he's going to look like. But I think that there's a case where, yes, he's the best football player in this draft. But when you start to break down, okay, well, what are you going to have him do? I don't know that he's actually the best at either of those things. And that gives me pause with the number 2 overall pick. Like, if I'm drafting somebody second in the draft and it's not a quarterback, they need to be the best person at that position. Yep. The only reason quarterback is different is because you expect another quarterback to go before that.
Exactly. And that other position has to be day one starter, no doubter. And you listed off some names. Like, for me, even like a Denzel Burke out of Ohio State corner. Like, is there that much of a difference? Like, I think Travis Hunter's better, but is he number 2 overall better? Like, my point is there's other names, other options you can go. And if you're not certain, you know what? I was kind of on the fence about it. Us talking this out has helped. I think I'm
very persuasive.
Yeah, no. It's good because you talk through it, and it's like, yeah, why would I want? Like, it would be fun. I could see some owner who's a college football fan, hopefully not Jimmy Haslam, being like, I like this guy in college football.
Do you think Jimmy watches Colorado games?
I don't know what the hell Jimmy does.
I mean, Tennessee was not on their schedule, so I'm going to guess no.
I don't know what the hell Jimmy does to be except meddle and talk to Paul D and be grifted by Paul D. Podesta for almost a decade.
Do you think after Jimmy being at Tennessee, Ohio State, do you think he asked Andrew Berry if Jeremiah Smith is available to draft?
Oh my God. Dude, that guy would be the best wide receiver in the NFL today.
Oh, if he were, and obviously he's not eligible to be drafted. He still has to be in college for 2 more years. If he were eligible, I would take him second overall. Like, I would not think twice about that. I think he's that good.
Oh yeah, I would take him immediately.
And this is coming from somebody who is not an Ohio State fan.
Right. He's that damn good. You got Ibuka as well, who isn't at the same caliber, but I think he's going to be
he's not a number 2 overall pick guy.
No,
like if the Browns are picking, if they trade back a couple times and end up picking 17th, would I consider Emeka Ibuka? Absolutely, but not at number 2 overall.
No, not at all. So the trade down part comes in, and that's where, myself included, I'm sure on draft night will groan. Okay, here, because it's also, Danny, you have to think of it the other way. If you trade down, you end up playing against the best players, and you don't get the best players in theory, like with Patrick Mahomes in the original version of Deshaun Watson and many others, and you get Corey Coleman, like they did that one time last time we had second overall. So it's tricky. Now, if let's say we go, let's for fun say Kirk Cousins angle. Get Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins, he's going to be the bridge guy. Cool. Healthy enough. You need a rookie quarterback. Right. Where do you swing back to? Because there's 2 names that I like now, and the draft order there's still the combine things are going to switch. The 2 names I like as secondary options for not start right away are Jackson Dart and Will Howard of Ohio State. And I know, Danny, I'll tell you, I know the man has his flaws, but by God, the placement on the 2 balls he put to Jeremiah Smith and Ibuka in that last playoff win, my heart skipped a beat. It was Pro Bowl placement. And I know he's got his flaws, but I'm thinking if you can put him, train him up, coach him up, boy, that'd be a nice value. If you can get
So I'm going to
to
call out the Ibuka one because that ball was deflected by the defensive back. That was a great catch. I don't think that was it hit the DB in the arm. It was a good throw. It was not some just absolute dart of a throw. I think that was a better catch than a better throw. I don't necessarily trust him to be a great NFL quarterback because, we just got done talking about Jeremiah Smith, who is incredible. Emeka Ibuka, who should be a first-round pick. I'm somebody who is very high on Carnell Tate, their third wide receiver. He'd be the best wide receiver on a lot of college football playoff teams. And Will Howard didn't exactly light things up. He's going to be going, believe it or not, when he gets into the NFL, he's going to be playing with lesser talent at the wide receiver position, most likely than he did in college. And I haven't been all that impressed. Like, I think Ohio State would be, and I understand this is Browns podcast, not an Ohio State podcast, but just hear me out.
Oh, we talk Buckeyes here too, brother. It's okay.
If I think if Ohio State had a better quarterback, say they had, I'm not crazy about any of the quarterbacks they have, but even if Quinn Ewers stuck around at Ohio State and stuck it out, and I understand why he didn't, made the right decision for him, and it's working out for him. But say he did that, I think we're talking about Ohio State as the greatest team of all time in college football. But Will Howard, I think, is a very average college quarterback and somebody that I don't look at as, that guy could be the answer at the next level. I'm not going to ever rule anybody out, but I don't look at him and say, that should be the future of the Browns. Now, Jackson Dart, I'm intrigued by. I think he's made some really good throws, but I also watched that game they played against Florida where he just made 2 absolutely, or maybe it was even 3 absolutely boneheaded decisions with the game on the line that were horrible interceptions. I look at it and go, I don't know. That guy has what it takes. Right. So I there's not a quarterback I love. And I understand that we're talking about these guys as 4th, 5th round picks. And at that point, you're kind of playing roulette as to whether or not they're going to be real NFL caliber quarterbacks. So I totally get that. But if I had to choose between those 2 guys, Jackson Dart would be the guy that I go to. I don't love Jalen Milroe either. I know that he is declared for the draft, but I don't love him.
The turnovers,
I'm intrigued by Drew Aller, but again, I don't love him. Like, it's just, this is not a great year.
Because Drew Aller is, he undeclared, but he still could, right? He's kind of bubble.
So everything that I've heard, and I'm a big Notre Dame fan. So as you can imagine, I've been listening to a lot of Notre Dame and Penn State podcasts this week leading up to the Orange Bowl. And from what I have gathered in listening to people that actually know what they're talking about, because I don't talk to anyone that knows Drew, despite him being from Northeast Ohio. I don't talk to anybody within the Penn State program. I'm not going to pretend that I do, but from what the reporters that actually do know what they're talking about have said, it sounds to me as if, if Penn State beats Notre Dame on Thursday, and the homer that I am says they're not going to, but then he might reconsider because his stock would be growing and be high enough as to, hey, maybe he is a first round lock of a pick that he would not have been prior to the college football playoff when it was announced that he would be returning for another year at Penn State. So I do think that while what has been said publicly has been said, I don't think the door necessarily has been shut on him entering the draft this spring.
I like Drew Aller a lot, but you're right. Every quarterback in this draft you can make and pick holes in. Absolutely. Like I feel Cam Ward has some Jameis Winston in him, man. He's nonchalant. He's chucking it up. He's throwing.
No doubt.
When I was watching, I watched some of the games. I'm going to deep dive more as we get closer, but I was watching some and I'm like, I'm getting Jameis vibes. Like less fun, but Jameis vibes. Make all the play. Jalen Milroe guy. No, I don't.
I mean, Kyle McCord, Carson Beck, Dylan Gabriel. None of these guys do it for me, man.
Dylan Gabriel sucked versus Ohio State. He was garbage.
The first time he was awesome. I will say that first game, some of those deep balls he hit on in the game Oregon beat Ohio State in. I came away from that one very, very impressed. I also, truthfully, I don't love lefty quarterbacks. I think that you have to change. Like for me to be intrigued by a left-handed quarterback, I think that you have to be really, really, really good because so many other things have to happen where you have to change the way your offense operates because of that guy's dominant hand. Like offenses, believe it or not, all offenses in the NFL, with really the exception of Miami right now, play right-handed where they're going to, like the way the line is built, the way the route tree is designed, they play for a right-handed quarterback, and he's not somebody that I view as worth changing for.
No, not at all. And way too many turnovers. And we see guys run for a bunch of touchdowns all the time. get hurt. I'm not interested. So that being said, Danny, you don't get Cam Ward. You don't take a quarterback at 2. You trade down. Then we got to take a rookie, and preferably not just another DTR flyer type, somebody who could have some upside. Because like we said, there are holes in all these players, but also you need to go find your Bo Nix. Sean Payton. Bo Nix was not considered the best by a long shot, but he was best for the system. So who's the best for the Stefanski system is what they need to figure out if they go that way. So who's your guy? If it's not one of those two, is there somebody you're like, hey, you mentioned Quinn Ewers? Is there someone trade back into the first round, top of the second?
So I think, well, I don't think that it would be that high necessarily, but the guy that I look at, and we haven't brought him up yet, but it's interesting you bring up Bo Nix because he played college football for 10 years. So it's a very good comparison here. But go look at Louisville, where Tyler Shuck at Louisville, he played, I believe, 7 years of college football, been around for a really long time. I think he could be a guy that's worth taking a flyer on. I think he's a guy that could fit into this system. He's not the most consistent. He doesn't light it up. He played out Louisville. He's no Lamar Jackson coming out of there. But I do think that he could be somebody that's just worth taking a flyer on. I'm not saying it's going to work out. I'm not saying that it's not. But if you put him in the right system, I think he's somebody that is going to come into the NFL a little bit more mature, right? As Bo Nix did, because Bo Nix was around for 100 years. I think that you could look at him and say, yeah, this guy, maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't, but he's a little bit older. He'll probably pick up things a little bit quicker. He's played a lot of football already. I think that those things, if you're going to take a flyer on now, you could say the same things about DTR as he played at UCLA forever because of the COVID year, and that didn't work out. But I do think that maybe that is the route to go down.
Right. And essentially, too, are they built for the NFL? DTR is not built for the NFL.
No.
Last one for you here, Danny. Do you have confidence that this front office and whatever collaborative thought partner gobbledygook scheme they have cooked up, do you have confidence that they can hit on this arguably the most crucial draft?
It's weird because when Andrew Berry drafts defensive players, I'm kind of like, yeah, that guy's going to be good. And you look in, I know that MJ Emerson didn't have a great year, but I think MJ Emerson, I still believe he's going to be a good corner. I think Greg Newsom's a fine corner. I know Jeremiah Usu-Kormoa got hurt, but he is an absolute home run of a pick at number 52 or 56, whatever they drafted him at in the second round. Grant Delpit, I think, is a really good player. Off the field concerns aside, I think Mike Hall Jr. is a really talented football player. You look at the guys he's drafted on the defensive side of the ball, like, this guy knows what he's doing. Then you look at who he's drafted on the offensive side of the ball. It's like, has this guy ever watched football in college? Because, and you know, I do want to give maybe a little bit of the benefit of the doubt with Cedric Tillman because he had such bad, horrendous quarterback play with Deshaun Watson under center, and he looked much better before the concussion when Jameis Winston was throwing him the football. So maybe that one will turn out to be a good draft pick. Like, I'm still willing to see that one through a little bit longer. Yeah. But I trust AB with defensive guys. I don't trust him with offensive guys. We've not seen him take a highly touted quarterback. I, again, don't necessarily want that to change this year. It's weird. I don't have a ton of faith in him, but I still have a ton of faith in Kevin Stefanski. I'm in a very conflicted spot because it does seem like those two are conjoined at the hip, but I have so much more faith in the coach than the front office.
And I think the main thing here is whatever that confidence level with Barry is, get Stefanski a player that can actually fit his scheme and let the man cook. Damn it.
Right. Because that's
Dorsey crap.
That's what we've seen. Like, everybody, and Deshaun Watson is the exception to this rule.
Everybody else.
I don't think Dorian Thompson-Robinson, God bless him, like, seems like a great kid. I want to root for him really bad. I feel bad for him watching play football because it's just clear he's not an NFL quarterback yet.
Yeah.
But other than that, everyone else that has played quarterback under Kevin Stefanski when he has called plays has basically played their best football to that point in their career. Joe Flacco was awesome. Yeah, he was a little turnover happy last year, but I don't know that he necessarily ever played that well when he was in Baltimore. I mean, hell, they almost won a game with Nick Mullins playing quarterback on short notice under Kevin Stefanski. The first year Stefanski was here with Baker Mayfield, Baker looked awesome. Like, they've done so much good stuff with quarterbacks. I want to see Kevin Stefanski be able to mold somebody into who he thinks fits into this offense. And I just think that, you know, he's worth hanging on to. I really, truly believe that. And two, he should be calling plays. Like, it's such a dumb conversation that there are people, oh, you know, you bring in an offensive coordinator, that person should be calling plays. No, did you watch how Ken Dorsey called plays? Like, it was terrible. Kevin knows what he's doing, and I just really hope that conversation can go away. If they hire somebody, I think like elevating Tommy Rees from tight ends coach, pass game specialist, whatever his title was this year, to offensive coordinator, because as somebody that, as I mentioned, is a Notre Dame fan, I've seen Tommy Rees as a play caller, not great, but I also have seen Tommy Rees as a play designer, and I think he does a lot of really creative stuff there that worked out really well. I think he's a bright mind at that spot. If he's got a lot of input into the game plan, but at the end of the day, Kevin Stefanski is the one calling plays, I think that's a really good situation to be.
Interesting. A rising star. Rumors Vrabel wants to take him wherever he goes. Interesting stuff to play out. Danny, tell people where they can hear you, find you, follow you, all that.
So I'm on 92.3 The Fan from time to time. I'm doing a lot of Cavs stuff right now as well. I host the Locked On Cavs podcast, talking about the best team in the NBA every single day. So you can find that wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else, YouTube as well. I'm also writing about the Cavs in my Substack, The Inside Shot, basically just trying to give people as much Cavs coverage as they could possibly want, because that is the team in this town that's actually good and deserves the spotlight. So yes, they are, and they don't get enough of it. Danny, you do a great job, buddy. Always a pleasure. Thank you. Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, we'll talk to you soon. There he goes, Danny Cunningham, and you can follow him on X at Real D Cunningham. Get him on Instagram as well. That poll again, 43.5%. Take your QB at the second overall pick. Pick best non-QB, 26.1. Oh, there we go. There's the updated 19%. Trade down 33.3%. Let me know what you want the Browns to do. Second overall pick. You can vote in that poll. Hit us up in the comments, whatever it might be. And Danny Cunningham, of course, joined us on the Stadium Mustard Hotline. Oh, yeah. Look at that. From ballparks to backyards and everywhere in between, Stadium Mustard is a smooth but spicy mustard, rich in taste and tradition. Stadium Mustard is a real and organic mustard, not manufactured. You can get it at Cleveland Brown Stadium. You can get it all across Cleveland, Ohio, Canada, USA, wherever you need it. I love it. Great for burgers, deli sandwiches, pork chops, whatever you want. Stadium Mustard is a place to go. I absolutely love it. So there, interesting stuff, guys, with the second overall pick in the Andrew Berry news. Now, the NFL regular season is done, meaning all the voting for the awards are based off of the regular season. So I got a couple sick picks for you.
It's time for Sick Picks. Brought to you by DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Okay, here we go. So MVP, to me, it's got to be Josh Allen, minus 450. Now, do I have a bias because I hate the Ravens and Lamar Jackson? Yes. I'll blatantly say that. Yes. Plus 320 is taking Lamar Jackson, putting a bet on him, the better value. Absolutely. Would it be a shock if he were to win that award? No. But I think Josh Allen is the better passer. I think you can't say he's more important to the team because Lamar is equally important. But it's a two-horse race. So my bet goes to Josh Allen at minus 450. You're not getting a lot of value there, but that's what I would say. Again, value-wise, Lamar Jackson is the better one. Here's where the real value is, and I am shocked by this number, which you can bet on the DraftKings Sportsbook, of course. Defensive Player of the Year. Myles Garrett, going into last week, was plus 2,000. Now, plus 7,500. That's insane. That's absolutely wild. That means if you did a $10 bet, you would get paid out $760. What? Like, okay, here's the favorite right now. Patrick Surtain, the second for Denver. Fine corner. Could he win it? Like, he's a great shutdown guy. Jerry Jeudy burned him when they played Denver. Didn't lead the league in interception. He's fantastic. But usually, if we look at where the tea leaves fall, it goes to somebody who rushes the quarterback. So minus 450, I don't like the Patrick Surtain pick. Trey Hendrickson balled out at the end. Bad luck for Myles there. 3.5 sacks in that last game. Myles, though, still has the first overall amount of tackles for loss. So depends. Remember last year when he won, he did not lead the league in sacks. So that gives us some hope. He did not lead the league in sacks. Does not lead the league this year. Was tied for it with Trey Hendrickson at the end. Hendrickson had the big game. Hendrickson's plus 550. You got TJ Watt plus 900. Get TJ Watt out of here. You guys got 11.5 sacks. Get TJ Watt, no dice this year, pal. Then ahead of Garrett still, Kirby Joseph, Andrew Van Ginkel, and then Myles Garrett. Like, if you're telling me, like, plus 7,500. I'm absolutely sprinkling some. That's definitely a DraftKings Sportsbook sick pick. Myles Garrett at plus 7,500. Then coach of the year. Look, minus 750. Kevin O'Connell is the favorite for Minnesota. I think that's got to be the choice. I'm not betting it because there's no value on it. Is Dan Campbell at second place the next best value or the next best option plus 400? Yes. Could that happen? Yes. I wouldn't be surprised with Dan Campbell winning that. I would pop a couple bucks down on Dan Campbell at plus 400. But guys, Kevin O'Connell, I don't see how you can go in any other direction for what you did with Sam Darnold alone. Plus, you ended with 14 wins. With Sam Darnold, who wasn't a Russell Wilson who started his career great and then went down. No. Sam Darnold sucked from the beginning. Terrible. And you brought him up. Now, you turned into a bit of a pumpkin the last regular season game. We'll see how that translates to the playoffs. But this is a regular season award. So Kevin O'Connell, I feel, should win it. But again, value-wise, Dan Campbell plus 400. If you're going to sprinkle a couple, that's the one. But the Myles Garrett plus 7,500, my goodness. Come on. That's too good to not take a chance on, right? Holy. All right. So we will be back live Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern, right here, getting you ready for the NFL playoffs. Wild card weekend. Talk about the couple games Saturday. Get you ready for Sunday. Betting tips, maybe some DFS fantasy plays too. Get you all set and previewed up. So make sure you join us there. Jump in the chat. We always love that. Notifications on. Subscribe. Share the link. If you missed any of the conversation I had with Danny Cunningham, great stuff talking about the Browns build-up and offseason possibilities. So thanks to Danny Cunningham from 92.3 The Fan for producer Shane. I'm Andy McNamara. And as always, go Browns!
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.